right, folks, so I haven't discussed the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which apparently has been going on since Friday. They've now got a 2-day extension on the ceasefire. The agreement that they reached was that Hamas would exchange 50 Israeli prisoners or hostages. I don't want to seem like I'm sugarcoating one way or the other. And in exchange for Israel releasing, I think it was 150 Palestinian prisoners who the Palestinians would say are hostages. But I'm glad to see a ceasefire of any kind. It is not good to normalize death and destruction. What has been going on in Gaza since October the 7th is reprehensible. And no, what Hamas did on the actual date of October the 7th does not justify it. I've gone over that time and time again. I'm not going to belabor the point here. And so pretty much under any terms, a ceasefire is going to be a positive thing. There's almost nothing, almost no deal that leads to a ceasefire, which is not preferable, in which the costs would be greater than the costs of continuing the war for one more day. Now, 2 days from now, when the ceasefire ends, I don't think that things are going to get any better. It seems that the Israelis plan fully to just go back to business as usual, and that is bad news because Hamas seems to be dragging out the process of exchanging the hostages to lengthen the ceasefire. And of course, the Israeli side is going to say, well, Hamas wants to lengthen the ceasefire so they have more time to smuggle in more weapons from Egypt or something like that. Something about tunnels under the border. And let's just say that's true. Yes, Hamas is a military force. I'm sure they are doing everything they can to regroup during the time of the ceasefire. And considering that I think Hamas deliberately was trying to provoke this extreme violent response from Israel when they launched the terror attack on on October the 7th, I don't think that Hamas is necessarily trying to get a ceasefire to stop the bloodshed because they were trying to preserve the lives of civilians. I think they're accelerationists, and they want there to be a high civilian body count because I think if you ask them to defend it, they would say, well, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. Either they can let the Israelis kill them slowly, one by one, or they can provoke Israel into trying to essentially institute a final solution to the Palestinian problem, which will turn the world against Israel and provoke some kind of international intervention, which will bring about an end to the conflict. If I had to try and war game out what Hamas is trying to do, that's all that makes sense to me. Hamas wants Israel to overplay their hand to such a degree that they turn the entire world against them, and that other countries step in and institute a new peace that presumably would be more advantageous to Gaza than the status quo ante. Honestly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think the only countries that they really could rely on doing that would, maybe be, the best case scenario, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Hezbollah. Is that enough? No, I think the U.S. would probably get involved at that point. As we see, Republicans in the United States, like Tom Cotton, already are calling for I can't even think about it without laughing, for the U.S. military to start bombing Iran in response to Hamas's attack on October the 7th. So because Israel's at war with Gaza and killing thousands of Gazan children, the U.S. needs to bomb Iran. That's where we're at. That is what the U.S. government, a large part of the U.S. establishment, they firmly believe that. And this is a bipartisan position. It is not something that is... I said it was a Republican position. It's not just Republicans, and not all Republicans, thankfully, believe this nonsense. But a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats believe this. And even if they're not saying it now, they're open to the idea. And so if the situation escalates, they are going to move towards Tom Cotton's position, not away from it. They're going to say to themselves, you know what, John McCain was right all those years ago when he said bomb, bomb, bomb Iran. Even though Iran has nothing to do with this situation, it is a domestic dispute. But ironically, I guess both Israel and Hamas want to internationalize this dispute. They want to make it about geopolitics, when it's not. This is a civil war. These are people who live within the same borders. Israel has just, Israel seized this whole country, which people awkwardly call Israel and Palestine. Israel and the Palestinian territories, whatever you want to call it. Israel seized all that territory, what, in 1967? Or no, what am I saying? I believe they got Gaza and West Bank in different years. It wasn't 1967. That was too much in the weeds. Too much in the weeds. I can't talk myself out of this. But all of the territory that Israel controls, they own it. They took it. But they didn't want the people. That has been the problem with the Israeli project going back to 1947. Israel wanted all of this space in the Middle East, but they wanted none of the people that came along with it. And so nothing I've seen is going to change that. Israel's no less committed to keeping the land and not wanting to take the people, not wanting to make them citizens, to keep them as subjects, to keep them as prisoners. And the Palestinians who live in the West Bank and Gaza, the ones who are still there, are dug in. They're not running away, and they're not going to move to other countries, which is what Israel would like them to do. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.